Hi, I'm Dustin Pickering. Welcome to the New York Parrot Literary Corner. Today we have the fabulous ZM Wise, who is co-owner and helpful editor at Transcendent Zero Press, my own company, and is as well. And we're going to just have a casual conversation about the arts, his own arts, and my own art as well. Maybe may enter the picture. A little bit about me may come out. So my first question for you, Mr. Zach, is ZM Wise is tell us a little bit about your first publishing experience and how it felt to see your book come into fruition.
Well, it was a very different experience altogether. I remember like it was yesterday, about 8 years ago, after having a few various pieces published in several journals and magazines, I finally landed a publishing contract, and I was having my oil changed for my vehicle, and I remember receiving the reply by text, the acceptance, and because we had been corresponding for a little while, and he was extremely excited. I was extremely excited, and I started just doing this dance of elation, I suppose, in public. I couldn't care less. It was marvelous. And then later on, I got the rights back to the book.
Excellent. That's always a plus because sometimes publishers will keep the rights, they'll make the money, and that's basically how artists get really exploited that way.
Yeah, they decided to take it into the publishing field into a different direction. So I said, I'm going to take my book back, please.
That's absolutely. Make demands and hold them hostage if you have to get your own work back in your own and to yourself and back into your credit rather than them holding that. I know a lot of publishers do some crazy stuff to rip off authors and writers and all kinds of artists. We're one of the most exploited classes out there, other than children, of course. It seems like it's like there's just so much going on. It's not even funny with the ruthless, cutthroat greediness that's out there, the fraudulent greediness. Not an honest labor earning good money, but people cutting each other's throats and getting to get to the top.
So much avarice left and right.
Yep, everywhere. So from your first book publishing, what were some of the central themes of this collection that your consciousness sort of evolved through the book?
So Dustin, for my first two books that were published, unlike my later manuscripts, they were what I call potpourri collections.
Okay.
And they were culled from two notebooks, I believe. So they were extremely miscellaneous. I was starting to explore the boundaries beyond my usual Hallmark genre, very sappy to a T. I had been writing like that since high school, and I decided to branch out, take some different approaches. I was extremely young, and it I would have to say it was more broad. Didn't have a central theme. If I had to sense somewhat of...
Lost your voice there. I believe the wind took it from us. Let's give it a minute here. You're watching the New York Parrot Literary Corner. Just keep trying on. ZM has some technical difficulties from time to time. So if you're a subscriber, please tell others about us. If you're not a subscriber, you need to be a subscriber. Hey, there he is. Keep going. Keep talking.
So I would just say that initial exploration, if I had to sense somewhat of a pattern, and like many artists, visual artists, writers, musicians, I disown my early work. I have faith in my freshest work.
Right.
But it's nice to reminisce at times, and it's very interesting how my personal audience, some actually prefer my earlier pieces, and some prefer my later work. It's quite fascinating.
Do you feel that as a younger poet, you were more vulnerable poetically than now, uh, as an artist, you know, speaking to the world through your work.
On some level, I would say maybe I would say it was more vulnerable in a certain sense then than I was now, and then the same would apply to the present day. Um, that would apply to my songs too. My song.
We lost your voice again. Yeah, you're gonna lose your voice. You're gonna. It's like we were just speaking of cutthroats, and now your throat's been cut. You're gonna be the nightingale that can't sing.
Maybe the levels of experimentation.
There you are again. We can hear you now.
Oh, what part did you miss?
I heard something lamentations or levels of imitation, something like that was the last thing I heard.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess just like the level of, yeah, just theme, rhyme scheme, style, or maybe lack of rhyme scheme, and level of experimentation.
Okay, yeah, that was the last thing I heard. So, and then you moved on to, I mean, we'll talk about your confessional work in a little bit, your Quintos de Amor. One of the ones I'm curious about, which was actually nominated for the Bram Stoker Award, I believe, was Wolf, which was designated as an epic. What what prompted you to choose that form of writing, and what were there any personal experiences put into that book that were, you know, really integral to the formulation of the themes and the plot of that collection?
So Wolf was very. I'm glad you brought this one up. It was one of the greatest writing experiences of my entire life. The initial piece, Wolf, the epic itself, started out as an audio recording, and
We lost you again. Speaking of audio recording, come on, Mr. Computer. We have a we have a little bit of a trouble with Zach's bandwidth and stuff. We lost you when you said it started as a recording.
yeah, so it started as a recording. It was about 30 minutes, 11 seconds, and it was very composed on the tongue, and and I record many ideas through this, whether they're poems, songs, essays, other prose pieces, little quips, whatever may come. But I definitely wanted it to be a horror, maybe sort of fantasy cross. So there's barely any fantasy elements, maybe dark fantasy, but it's mostly horror, and it's my spirit animal.
Mhm.
Perhaps personal experiences may enter into the supplementary poems section, but not in the epic itself. Maybe perhaps a form of evolution, or maybe the lack of evolution.
Was it like a maybe like a dream sequence, or like where did the story come from? Did you just sort of evolve out of thin air in your mind, or
No, I was taking a moonlight stroll, and I thought of what may happen in this sort of anthropomorphic setting where these wolves actually have their own identities. This clan has their own life, their own lives. This pack operates in the same way we do, very diplomatically, and a story just surfaced from there. And then I added some more to the story, just handwriting it instead of through the recorder. It was a marvelous experience. It was very unique. I've still saved countless ideas. I will never know writer's block ever. If honestly, if there is such a thing. All my years I've been very skeptical on whether or not writer's block exists. And you and I saw Nikki Giovanni when she
her.
yeah when she said there's no such thing as writer's block, there is such a thing as lack of experience and lack of education. And of course she didn't just mean formal education, she just meant like educating yourself, providing yourself with knowledge, information, experiences, and it really solidified that belief. of mine, and I truly don't believe in writer's block, and I haven't in years.
You know, for me, sometimes I can't write, but I don't think it's that I can't write. It's that something mentally says it's time to take a break. I just like put a stone between me and my page, and I don't write because even when I want to write and I feel like I should be writing it, maybe something mentally says just don't do it right now. I don't think that's
Right.
really writer's block so much as as a request from the muse to shut the hell up for a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I've noticed, unless it's a special circumstance or a tragedy, perhaps, I've noticed the only thing that really blocks you is yourself. You have to
Yeah,
find
absolutely,
you
absolutely.
have to find out why. I've spoken to many an artist who have since relinquished their gifts voluntarily, and I asked them why has this gift ceased to be? Like, please let me in on this grand secret. And they tell me, and one of my favorite things to do is to just perhaps motivate said people if they want to, of course, if they want to
Suscitate.
resume their gift, if they want to, if they want their gift to be revitalized. So
Right. It can be sometimes difficult to be an artist. Some people just don't think it's worth it. Maybe the passion maybe die out or something, and they
yeah.
just decide, nah, that's not my thing anymore. I'd rather be a steady bureaucrat.
Right. It
I'd
really
rather work for the U.S. government,
it
make some
really
money.
yeah, it really is. It's kind of like theology. It really is a calling. Like
Yes.
you and I mean, you and I both have day jobs, and the thing is, as much as we believe in financial security, I mean, the arts are a full-time life.
It's a passion. It just consumes you. It's like that flame that just shoots up from the ground to the top. You know, it never ends. You know, it's like, you know, as long as it's there, I have to it's commanding me. It's making me move. It's what it is. It's I don't have any choice.
Exactly.
So what are some of the eccentricities of your creative process? I mean, you do some interesting experiments. You know, we were talking a little bit about it before we started the meeting. What would, you know, if there's anything like, you know, strange that maybe, you know, being resourceful with your work, you know, if you would like to mention anything specifically that you find interesting.
Well, I love my creative process to a T. It really is a labor of love. Um, if it does not start as an idea on the voice recorder,
Hmm?
I'll usually jot it down, or at least the outline. Excuse me. And then, of course, I handwrite it in on whatever surface, and then I type it up, polish it, revise it, edit it, proofread it a number of times. Um, Perhaps I'll have another set of eyes
Hmm.
view it as well. It really helps to do that, writers. Don't, I mean, I love being my own
Beta
editor.
readers.
Yeah, I love being my own editor. I love being on both sides of the project. But naturally, as an editor, the most difficult work to edit is going to be your own, without a
Right, you're
doubt.
not being objective about it. You know, you may have something in there that needs to be cut that doesn't make sense to the general audience that makes sense to you. So
Exactly.
it's something that is definitely needs to be taken into account is that the reader has to understand you. Otherwise they lose interest. And you can
Exactly.
always take those segments and put them into something else, maybe their own individual work or something. As they say, kill your darlings. But
Yeah, exactly.
I don't suggest taking that literally, but it's definitely a nice figurative statement.
It is, and I'd like to.
Don't kill your actual darlings, but do cut some of your work.
Yeah, I'd like to bring to everyone's attention my current project.
Absolutely.
Uh, so I jokingly say I've been training for a marathon because I've written several individual pieces on receipts, and they usually don't have titles and
Uh-huh.
whatnot. 10 years ago, yeah, 10 years ago, an old friend of mine who was working in a grocery store was talking to me, and I asked him, you know, I've always wanted to write a poem on a roll of receipt paper. Do you happen to have a spare roll of receipt paper? He said, yes. And he bequeathed this receipt paper. And
like the sword of Anna. Here you go, sir. Here's
This
your
Anna.
roll.
So here it is. So I started it on March 23rd of this year. And I wanted to finish it before the end of Poetry Month, but that was a joke. And so if I could just unravel it just a tad, I'm going to show you what I wrote in the past few days. So it ends here. This is just from the past few days, but I like to show you what I've cut out since March 23rd. I've cut and folded it into sections, and here's what I have so far. It's quite a lengthy piece. And
it's a very interesting idea. I'm wondering what prompts you to go to the trouble of all that. Is it just fun just to do it, or is there some sort of internal tick?
Well, Joyce and Kerouac kept nagging me.
There you go, those guys.
Burroughs, yeah, no, but
they're a pain in the butt, really, honestly.
Yeah,
they were great writers, but they're really a pain in the butt when it comes to talking to you. They can really be a pain in the butt.
The muse can be a chatty soul, truly. Yes. But for this piece, I'm not going to reveal the title until its completion. But it's probably the most experimental I've ever been. And some verses, some stanzas in there are standalone pieces, and I thought of the I suppose the Clash album Sandinista, where they took various songs. They wanted to have the working class as much music as possible. It's part of the reason why they made it into 3 CDs or 3 discs, 3 records rather, 3 LPs, and explored and exhausted almost every genre they could think of. It was an amazing listening experience, and I'm not saying the album was an inspiration for this piece, but sort of the motive behind it, maybe like a fraction. But it really is a journey. Here's the thing: I've never been able to describe any of my books in one word or in one sentence until this one. This one, I think the way I could describe it in one sentence is "Welcome to the inner sanctum of my mind." It really is a vast roller coaster, a vast wave of emotions, or perhaps lack of emotions, perhaps a dislike of emotions. It takes you everywhere. And as far as the reader understanding it, about that. I lean on the subjective element of it, truly.
Yeah, I think even if they don't know what you're talking about correctly, they can still experience it. And that's maybe more part of the fun of it. Reading a poem that you don't necessarily comprehend, I guess you could say objectively or scientifically speaking, like what is this person speaking of? You may be able to feel it and relate to it on a more subconscious level than kind of intuit about what it is and experience it rather than try to and pick it apart and interpret it. A lot of teachers out there, and I think it's the system, the education system, kind of hammers into you that you have to explicate this and pick apart each line. And it's like, well, not really. You can just kind of, you can kind of intuit from it, put your own experience into it. And poetry is a subliminal art. It's not necessarily meant to be scientific, and that's of course to teach appreciation of the craft of what goes into it. You want to say, okay, this is iambic pentameter and so forth, and all that, so people know the elements. You have to learn the elements before you really get into nitty gritty of being your own voice. I think that's my opinion, and my opinion is worth about as much gold as I don't know, Stone Mountain is worth. Nothing. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting to just experience the poem rather than trying to take it apart like it's a mechanical item of some sort, an invention that you pull apart and put back together. So going back to some or your earlier work before Wolf, Quinto Estea Amor, did you feel like, that sort of purged you and made you vulnerable in a way to open up on those topics, the love interest and the, so forth? I mean, I know that was like a part of that was letting go of certain things that were going on. And did you feel it was a success in that, right?
For the time being, part of me wishes I never released that one. I think it was an act of unorthodox, selfish therapy, as
Right.
as most confessional work is, honestly. But
Right.
why else would we release our own individual like struggles to the public? There isn't a lot of depth to that act, but it might be important for others to see, so they could perhaps relate to it,
That's true.
or
Very
or
true.
leer at you. But
It's not necessarily totally selfish. I mean, you're letting
no,
go of certain. It's like you're putting your own self out in the wind. It makes you vulnerable. It opens you up to the world, and that can be a process of being fearless. You're opening up to people and letting your guard down, and they can do what they want with it, and they can relate to it. They can laugh at you. They can say, "Ah, look at you, you're stupid," or they can just say, wow, this is something I've experienced. Most of people experience very similar things in love and life and employment and all those things. We go through the same cycles and same success and disappointments. So
yeah,
I think it's good to let your guard down. Be vulnerable. I don't do it as much in my work. I was just called on that a few days ago. Actually, somebody told me I wish you were more of you in your poetry than the literary voice. So I wrote some poems about that
mhm.
myself, some autobiographical work. Just to do it and see what happens. And I don't know. That's just my opinion. I feel like being vulnerable to an audience is a good powerful thing, and it takes a lot of guts, and as I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt said, do something you fear every day. And I've started to live by that. Even like on Facebook, I'm like, I shouldn't say this. Hey, Dustin, don't self-censor. Tell them what you think. Let them know who you are. Don't self-censor. I mean, that's part of the process of being.
Yeah, you've been doing that for quite a while, actually.
Yeah. And I've
Oh,
really upset a lot of people, and I've also helped a lot of other people realize themselves. So you polarize people that way, and they can be polarized. They can do their thing and be who they are. Some people just
right,
don't mesh with you.
right. But I hope
The way it
I hope
works.
maybe through my confessional works, I mean, it would perhaps assist a few individuals here and there to perhaps be either be vulnerable with me, or
Mhm.
or perhaps these experiences would resonate with them. And I
Right.
did release one more quote unquote confessional chapbook, but it was cloaked in a mini epic form, which
Micro.
was
Yeah.
which was Cosmish and the Horned Ones.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think you.
Yeah, I
We mythologize as societies. We create our value systems, and that all comes from the collective struggle. And I think that the personal struggle is just as deep as the collective struggle. In fact, the collective struggle is really a collection of the personal struggles, all the commonalities and the basis of that, and the foundations of society is in fact the mythological experience. So I don't think there's really anything wrong with kind of creating a mythos from your own experience. I mean, some
oh,
people might.
I thought it was a brilliant endeavor.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun. It can be very fun, and you created
It
a
was.
totally original set of characters and ideas from that. And
And then I did write another similar chapbook last year, except I wouldn't say I wouldn't say it provides a mythos as much as well, it's separated into three parts. There are 18 pieces in all, six poems and songs per section, but it was definitely a cleansing. It was a cleansing, and I say this to all confessional writers as well. And just confessional artists in general. There's nothing like the completion of a confessional work, because it really is a cleansing process. It Now that your experiences are immortalized on parchment, anything's possible. and you feel a sense of relief. Now, unfortunately for that chapbook, that effect only lasted a few months, and then it sort of relapsed. And so I wrote a ridiculously long essay, a long narrative essay, which turned out to be, I don't know, like 49, 50 pages, something like that.
Half of a book is a novella.
Yeah, it was a lot of it, a great deal of it was composed in real time as I was. But the point of the experience for me, for that.
Well, we lost your voice again. You're the voiceless man. Well, we'll give it a little second here, and we'll see if we can catch you again. But you're watching the New York Parrot Literary Corner, and I'm Dustin Pickering. This is ZM Wise. In case you have not heard of him, check his work out. This guy is phenomenal, imaginative, excellent person to speak with about poetry and the arts. If you're in doubt, get in touch with him at wherever venue you can find him. He's on Twitter. So tweet to the guy and tell him, hey, I'm lacking inspiration. Give me something to talk about. Give me some words. But he'll throw some words to you. But I think we can hear you now. We can hear you now.
Definitely. Yeah. So
can I hear you? Can we hear you now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
We passed that. So I was going to say, for this past experience. Yeah. For this past experience. I was going to say, like I said, this the point of the essay, since the chapbook effect didn't work, was, sorry if I sound morbid, but it was to keep stabbing myself deeper and faster and harder until I was completely numb from the pain. It was a very unorthodox exercise. It was literally painful, but
poetic surgery.
I cured myself. It worked.
Right. You took enough Novocaine that you got sick of it, and then it sort of caused you to be sick enough that you were done with it, basically. Yeah, I can relate to that. Sometimes you just, especially with love, there's something strange about love. You love to torture yourself about it. It's a very strange emotion. It's not at all what we tend to think of it as sentimental Hallmark card kind of thing.
No, far from it.
It's a force.
Far from it. It's very primal.
Yes, absolutely.
Very, very mythical. But when captured, when stolen, I guess you're in for the ride of your life. Hang on for dear life.
A roller coaster.
You will not regret it.
Right, and through that process, I hope that writers, poets, artists, and when you fall in love, commit yourself to creating, because that's therapeutic, and also you don't know what beauty and emotional go into it. 10 years later, you may look at something you painted or the music you wrote that you thought was trash during that period because it just didn't catch the experience. And then when you listen to it, you're like, hey man, I was really in some power right there. It happened to me when I was a teen. I wrote some stuff that I thought was, was a joke, and then I listened to it and I'm like, or I read it and I'm thinking, there's something more to this than I originally thought. It didn't quite capture the despair and the frustrations and the perils and the hopes and all the stuff going on in my mind, but it did capture something of it. And it's such a deep experience that, in fact, it does not commit itself to the arts very well, but it creates a lot of depth in the soul. And it's great to experience art through falling in love. I mean, what else can you do?
I agree. No, kind of like akin to my poems, my early love songs were, I'm not sure how much depth they had. Maybe a few of them had depth, but I suppose they were more lighthearted, more catchy, more poppy sounding. But then as with most of my songs,
we've lost you again. Well, this is a frequent occurrence with Zach, but it's a ZM. It's quite all right. He'll be back in shortly, as the serial commercials used to say. We'll be back in just a minute.
Man. I love Zoom as much as I love disease.
It Yeah, it's troubling. It can be frustrating, but it's good. We can tell a few jokes and go through the process like flow like water, as I like to say, or as Bruce Lee used to say. But anyway,
Yeah,
what were you saying
yeah,
about?
my songs. Yeah, so
Mhm.
I'm not sure how much depth my early love songs had, but like as I began to evolve as a creator, I could definitely see the evolution, the progress, the upward prism forming, which
Mhm.
is why I say to every creator out there now, if incineration or destruction works for you, that's fine. But I mean, I say try and save everything if possible. Don't delete, don't scratch out, save every draft. You will surprise yourself with your personal evolution as a creator.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, love it.
I burned quite a bit of my notebooks in high school, and I regret it because I remember some of the stuff in it and how interesting it could be to me now. It's like burning, your artifacts, you know. Just think of yourself as an event, a historical event taking place, and as that process is unfolding, you're writing your own personal history and your own eyes, and that's a very powerful thing. That's an amazing thing that we can do as creators, as author ourselves, you know, and tell our stories. And this is what's confessional. The poetry in that genre is very much about storytelling and letting the personal aspects of life be historical. And I think collectively speaking, that's where our mythos comes from, where our personal character as a country or as a people come from, you know. So what are some of your most in what influences you most poetically? It can be in the realm of music, painting, other poets, essays you've read, social critics, whatever. What when you read something or when you hear a song, what is it that sparks you just like that to jump in and say, okay, I gotta write, I gotta start writing something.
Pretty much everything you listed and more. uh, I
Didn't
mean,
get it all.
yeah.
Not quite the compendium I am.
With music, there are a great many ways to analyze a song, from the instrumentation to the vocalization. For me, I may make vocal analyses here and there, but
Mhm.
I analyze the piece like a poet. So I turn to the lyrics, I turn to the theme, to the style. I'm very, you know this, I'm very much in love with imagery. Anything abstract or experimental, something that almost doesn't make sense to the outsider, is something that
Mhm.
takes a great deal of thought. And there are many artists who complete this task with barely any effort whatsoever. And the same goes for writers and visual artists. Yeah, I would have to say that. And goodness, so I'm currently reading. Hang on.
And all the boxes back there.
those, those are all books. Those are all
I
books.
know I've got the same problem. I'm a bookophile. I'm a collector.
Bibliomania for the win. So, it's called Beyond Earth's Edge, the poetry of space flight. I
Oh
know
wow, that sounds interesting.
it's so cool. So it's
The
an anthology.
anthology.
It's an anthology of old and contemporary poems about space.
I think we lost you again.
You're gonna have to do so much editing.
We caught you again. We got you back on your voice, but your video is there. We go. We got you now. You're moving.
so
You were in a
so
stillborn for a second there. You were just like frozen on the screen, like
it
here's
happens.
ZM Wise. He is the great ZM Wise, and here's his spaceflight anthology. We can't talk about it because we can't
It's
hear it,
Zoom.
but
It's
you can see it.
Yep.
See it now
It's
live on the screen.
it's Zoom. It's Zoom. It's mother flipping Zoom. So
Tell
yeah,
us about this anthology.
yeah. So these are old and contemporary poems. There's a gift from my father, and it explores spaceflight in different sections. And I'm I'm pretty much halfway through it, and
Huh?
I'm in the section that speaks about robotic explorers. There's all these different
Okay.
missions that dealt with robots being launched into space, or perhaps onto the moon, on other surfaces, and you really have these collective viewpoints about space exploration as well. Why we should do it, why we shouldn't.
Right.
Something I'm deeply surprised about is why Gil Scott Heron's piece "Whitey's on the Moon" is not in here. I really wish it was. I thought it was a very seminal piece on why we shouldn't have space exploration from his point of view. We could be using this money for poverty, for equality, for very immediate problems here. Why should we send three men up to the moon when we have all this chaos on the surface of the Earth? By the way, love Gil Scott Heron's pieces in general. My God, I've just like Amiri Baraka.
Oh yes, I've read his work. Is wow. And you can see if you read from beginning to end, SOS, if you read it from start to finish, you see evolution as a thinker, as a political thinker, his political consciousness develops throughout. And you can see those realms of his thought throughout his book. And it's just, you don't see that too much in a lot of artists. You know? Very haphazard. That collection is excellent. I recommend it.
Yeah, I definitely cherish my copy of SOS.
Right.
That's great.
I feel jealous you even have a copy because I read it at the library. I wish I had a copy.
I was lucky. I was very lucky. It was at a half price one day, and I'm like, mine.
Absolutely, and I bought quite a few books off the shelf. And in the library, sometimes I'll go up to Freeman Memorial, do a little shout out to our friends there, and I'll go out there and I'll see books like I saw a whole bunch of old City Lights and New Directions paperbacks that were poetry one time for sale for like $5 for $2. Like, how could I pass that up? They have some great stuff there sometimes.
So, slightly off topic. It's not exactly poetry, but I would love to mention this as well.
Oh, yes, I was going to bring that up. That's your play. So tell us about the premise, what you're expressing, and what the value system there that you're asserting in that play.
Yeah. So.
And what is its title for those who can't see it?
Yeah. So sorry for the mirror effect. It's called "Bottles of Emerald for the Demon Queen," and
you did that art on the cover. And by the way, that was a design by Glenn Monroe Irby, who passed away last year, and he was a beloved Texas poet. So I just wanted to bring that up. He designed that. You did the drawing there. So
I did. Yeah. So I know it seems like a fifth grader drew this, but this was my first attempt at cover art. I really wanted to do it because I do delve in visual art here and there, but they're usually just very abstract, very odd sketches, sometimes sacred geometry. But I wanted the scales of justice. So on this side, it is a half full bottle of absinthe. See the light green, and then on this side, there's the sacred lemniscate. Then for people who don't know what the lemniscate is, it's pretty much the infinity symbol, the horizontal 8, and then a question mark over it. So, and as you can see,
what an interesting concept.
Yeah, as you can see, they're very even. Not one side does not weigh greater than the other. So, so this play, I wrote it in 2019. And it started as an initial dialogue that I heard in my head, and I wanted to spread the word, which I think, in my opinion, it's still an overlooked issue. I don't think they've cracked down laws hard enough for these quote unquote special people, but I can't stand reckless drivers, can't stand inebriated drivers, and the trial within this courtroom drama that I wrote deals with that in a very. It's not a happy story. It's a play in one act, 3 scenes, and it addresses this issue a great deal. Takes place in my home state of Illinois, and. So I tried to be as technically accurate as possible, tried to gather as much legal information as possible so that it doesn't look too far-fetched. And I gathered some information from certain courts online. as well as certain finds. I also included an original ending.
We lost you at original ending. I was going to ask you also. You used a very unorthodox poetics in this play, because I've read it, and of course, Transcend Zero Press published it. So when you're able to go back to your thought, I was going to ask you to kind of explore the process for those poetics. Like, you use a lot of, you know, one particular thing that comes to mind is the book they swear on is not typically the Bible. In the court, it's typically a Bible, but in your case, it was something else. So what about that?
It's an international. What everyone who enters the stand swears on is an international book of love poetry.
Excellent. That's quite clever.
Thank you. Yeah, it's this anthology of love poetry, and one of the attorneys questions this, of course, but the judge says otherwise. And there are hints of surreal fantasy in it. There are actually pieces of verse within the play, because one of the characters speaks in verse, and you have no idea why this is until the very end, of course. And then what I did was I included a poem which was comprised of every single line from the character. I made it into one poem.
Excellent. So, and we published it. I thought it was very unorthodox style of playwriting. You had plans to put it on the stage, but
yes,
as far as I know, you haven't found the place yet. Are you still looking for somewhere?
It's just it was because of the pandemic, actually.
We lost you again, and before we lost you, we went into the robotics. But you'll come back as you always do. You come back in the finery of life, and there you are. I think I hear you now.
Yeah. So my cousin, she's so she knows a few people back in my home state. I prefer to put it on the stage in my home state. I just think that would make the most sense. So it's that's my goal. I would love to bring it to the stage. That would be just amazing. And I would just the overall message is just make safer choices on the road. Now, I don't know how many people this is truly going to impact. They might poo-poo it and keep texting, keep drinking, keep doing whatever tasks they may, because it's a great deal of drivers just treat the road like it's the GTA video game series. It's just unfortunate. So the way, unfortunately,
I can tell you've been in Houston too long. Yeah, that's exactly what it is in Houston.
It's
the blinker. I don't know. It's just turn left.
It's that way in Houston. It's almost in almost every major metropolis. I've been to Los Angeles. Now Chicago's a different story. New York City. It happens almost everywhere you look. It's I just don't understand. So honestly, like my opinion on vehicles, they're nothing but 2 to 8 ton death machines to me. I don't really. I drive because I have to. I don't really enjoy the experience. I love my feet, so just I like the experience of walking, of running, but of course in more industrial states, if you don't have a vehicle, you're pretty much SOL.
I can testify to that. I haven't ever actually been a driver, and I pretty much don't go anywhere.
You're not missing much, trust me.
I'm missing going to to events downtown or to.
Right.
I'm missing a lot of things, but at the same time, for many years I walked to work, which was about 3 miles a day, walking to and from, and I did that every day, most of the time, and that was very frustrating. I mean, but it got me in shape. I felt good, and I think it's good to walk and run and to be.
It gave you a lot of thinking time, didn't it?
I'm not sure what I thought about it, other than one time it was raining really heavy, and I was thinking, I was watching people go nuts everywhere because it just came out of nowhere, and people were honking their horns like, hey, it was just, people were going nuts over it, and it was just rain. I'm like, guys, it's water falling from the sky. Come on, you got this in your sink. I mean, come on, calm down.
Yeah, nobody's in that much of a hurry. Yeah, that's the thing. The one thing
Painful
that's helped
word.
me, the one thing that's helped me through driving is to treat everybody like they're insane or treat everybody like they're a schmuck, because
Absolutely.
it keeps you sane, it keeps you alive. Don't trust anyone. And you know, it really does make a difference. You know, don't let your guard down on the road.
Definitely. And I think you go a little further in different dimensions in that play. I don't want to give it away, obviously. So if anybody's curious, it's not just about drunk driving. That play
Right?
has a
No, it's
lot
not.
of dimension to it.
A lot,
There's a
yeah.
lot of intricate plot twists and a lot of fun. I wouldn't say fun, but interesting things to think about in that particular play, Bottles,
Yeah,
Emerald, the Demon Queen.
definitely
Very
doesn't
interesting.
end. Yeah, definitely doesn't end the way one thinks it would.
Right. There's a major twist, but I've read it. I'm not going to say what it is. Obviously, I don't want to tell the whole audience what your play says, because then they won't read it.
No, they won't.
They'll say, I don't want to do that. That's not my thing. But check it out. Bottles in for the Demon Queen, and check out other fine works by ZM Wise all over the
most
place. You know,
most
he's
recently, most
yes,
recently,
and we'll talk about that one too. What that was about? That's sort of a poetry of place of
yep.
Illinois,
So
Chicago specifically.
location poetry, kind of like the musician Sufjan Stevens' 50 States project, but which he
Mhm.
later admitted was a marketing gimmick, which he would make an album for each of the states. He made one for Michigan, then he made one for Illinois, and so
I
I'll
like that
just
cover, by the way. Who was the publisher
thank you.
there? Who's the
The
who's the publisher?
publisher is Cherry House Press, and they're in
Excellent
Arthur,
job, Cherry
Illinois.
House Press.
They are wonderful. I actually came up with the concept, and then she designed the rest. So it's a coliseum, and then uh, engulfed within it is the state of Illinois.
Wow.
Sort of a larger picture.
Okay.
And it was awesome. She put an excerpt from one of my pieces on the back with the state. Um,
Wow.
yeah, and the ironic thing that sparked this project was Texas Pride.
Yeah, you've mentioned the sort of contrast and irony of being from Illinois but moving to Texas, and how that helps you appreciate being from Illinois a little more. So that is that part of the book? Is that part of the adventure in the writing there?
Part of the genesis, I'd say the
Huh?
initial genesis. It's divided into 5 sections. Let me go to the table of contents really quick, just to clarify, because it's been a little while since I've looked within the interior. Uh, Sections about people, a section about locations, a section about poetry and Illinois itself,
Hmm.
a section about historical events, and last but not least, very personal pieces, very philosophical pieces. And I wrote them all in 2015, within the span of a few months, or I'd say maybe 1 to 2, and yeah, it really helped gather a better idea about the state. I was mostly raised in northern Chicago, so I gave that the most attention, but I tried to give other parts of the state as equal attention as possible as well, because the entire state is just magnificent.
Hmm.
And I'm not boasting. I'm not one of these people. Oh, everybody should live here. Blah blah. This is the greatest thing. It's just the greatest for me as an individual. I
Right.
feel I should point that out, because you never know in this day and age. You never know what people may be thinking.
I think we have a few minutes left. If you want to share here at the end of the program some of your achievements of your own poetry. Read us a couple of your own poems to give us a sample and taste of your adventure and literature.
Certainly, I'd love to. Thank you very much. Let me pull them up. Um, and then of
Lost your voice again, Mr. Wise. Let's wait for you. Just keep going. Just keep doing your thing, and we'll wait, and we'll probably come up in a little bit. This is New York Parrot Literary Corner. I'm Dustin Pickering. We're talking with ZM Wise, a poet based here in Houston, Texas, and he's going to read us some poetry when he's back online, when his voice comes back. We can hear you now. Not quite yet.
There we are.
We're kind of getting a mixed
Yeah.
echo.
Here, hang on.
I can hear you.
My Chromebooks and Zoom did not mix.
We are experiencing some technical difficulties on the end of the program here, but hopefully we'll bring he'll be back online in a little bit. In the meantime, I'm going to just discuss the program a little bit, and we've been doing this for. Yes, I can hear you now. Ah, he said the GD word.
Sorry.
That's all right. It's a family-friendly environment if you have a family. If you have a family.
Did I say that?
I don't know. I just felt like just telling a joke.
Okay.
No, you're back on. We got you.
All right. So I'll read two recent pieces.
As long as they're not about peanut butter. Reese's Pieces is my favorite.
So this one was published in Showbear Family Circus, and this is one of many of my flyer poems. Sometimes I'll write poems and songs on the back of these mini flyers that I possess, and very experimental, very well put together. I'd say some structure, but anyway. So this is a short piece. And I don't really title them unless it's a song. So I just number them. So I guess technically it's a title. So this is flyer poem number 79. The suburban oculus, keeping the metropolis to itself. The outdoor cathedral's eye sees you all. Gargoyles, stone-faced about life, stare off into the brink of the city. They have no discussion value, so why would speech be necessary? Awkward silence at its finest, but the stones break it each time. Thank you.
Excellent. Stones break it each time. Is that the Rolling Stones? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. And I'm going to read a piece from, so three pieces from my most recent confessional chapbook, which is not released yet.
Okay.
Has not been released yet. So this place called the Lothlorien Poetry Journal in England accepted these, and let's see here. I think and it was really cool. They published three of them, one from each section of the aforementioned chapbook. I thought that was very special. All right. So this piece is called Shi Bangongbe. Tanya Tango, a stitch in time saves 9. Your efforts, a will-o'-the-wisp of defeat. Lost in the trenches they climbed out of in wartime. Every spice and dried rose petal you added turned your virgin moon into yet another rioting barrier. Tanya Tango, I declare that your war is officially over, yet the hum of anxiety's minions that burrow themselves like moles in your chocolate orifices of vision lead me astray. Oh, to die another dawn-trodden day, bang my gong, pollute my organ. Tanya Tango, catharsis's definitions are interchangeable when burying yourself under 6 feet of vino blanco. The blush in your desert face succumbed to a wild fire. I miss your laughter like I miss the paleness of wintry streets on Chicago's exposed medians. Tanya Tango, away with me in the spiritist you transform into every 8 suns. A kiss from you in city lights. A couch affection session on the stage of intimacy's backbone. Loss of fluidity and spine of metaphors, but then this was always a stage. Thank you.
Excellent. And you
I'll let
said
you
that.
take a look at the chat book. You know of the event I speak. I wouldn't shut up about it to you from time to time.
Right. Well, I mean, that's what you got to do sometimes. It's writing about it, talking about it, letting it flow out, you know. As
Exactly.
long, you can use your words as weapons and explorations, and it's life. And you can use it for personal development. You can use it for therapeutic purposes. You can use it for any number of things, and you can use it to explore what you think things, what your value system, your meaning, in life. You can toy with language and make something new and unique. And there's some real fun, playful experimentation in that poem. Even though it's a serious topic, I mean, it comes down to there's a lot of tussling with the words. It's really fun. It's a good
Yeah.
poem. It's an excellent poem. I'm glad it got published.
Oh, thank you.
So
Appreciate it.
been wonderful talking with you. I think it's been a little bit of a longer program than usual, but Zoom is allowing us a few extra minutes due to the fact it's just me and you. So if you want to, give some shout outs here at the end of the program, say thank you to people who have influenced and inspired you, publishers who've pushed you,
Yeah,
uh,
definitely.
anybody you want to say hello to out there who would, want their voice out there in the ether, as they say on the YouTube.
Yeah, definitely. So I'd like to thank all my publishers, including Cherry House Press,
Hmm?
definitely Weasel Press,
Hmm?
and then their one of their sister publishers, Red Ferret Press, which mainly publishes erotic works,
Hmm?
and then of course TZ Press, the one I belong to, very loyal to, for goodness knows how many years. And I would like to thank my grandfather, who's no longer with us. He taught me almost everything he knew about poetry and language, writing. I'd like to thank a great many musicians who inspired my musical work,
Mm-hmm.
of course, such as David Bowie, Rodriguez, Nick Drake, Ian Curtis, Gil Scott Heron, Robert Johnson, Erica Badu, much more. Jim Morrison, Leonard Cohen,
Mm.
and of course a great many writers: Sylvia Plath, Sappho, and Hedwana, and many contemporaries as well. So thank you all so much. You've influenced me like you have no idea. And to all the new and aspiring creators out there in whatever medium or media you practice, never let anything cease your gift. Never let anything take it away. Never let anything come in between you two. It's going to take you farther than you realize. Your evolution can be an upward prism or a downward spiral. It's all up to you. It truly is.
I think even though it's
the
not
arts,
monetarily,
right?
most of the time you don't get money for it, but you can meet
Right.
fascinating people.
It's a
You'll
calling.
learn a lot. You'll learn quite a bit, and you'll have adventures that you can talk about.
Right.
It's very
And
much that's what I do this for.
definitely the arts, it really is a drug to me. It's a lustful craving. I desire it, whether appreciating it or creating it, just about every day. It's what keeps me relatively sane and full of oxygen. So
Absolutely. So thanks
yeah.
again, ZM Wise, for joining us today. This has been the Parrot Literary Corner, and I hope our subscribers will tell other people about what we're doing and invite people to get in contact with us at Literary Corner at newyorkparrot.com to request an interview. You can also submit works there for publication at New York Parrot Literary Corner. And subscribe to our wonderful YouTube station here. You'll learn about politics as well. We have a program, The Politics, which is excellent for learning about New York politics. And so you can get quite a lot of information from us. And the Literary Parrot is excellent about bringing out global voices We're trying to present you with as much diverse approaches to literature, to the arts. So if you're a musician, you're a painter, you're a poet, you're a novelist, a sci-fi writer, a fantasy writer, anything you're doing creatively speaking, and you want to offer us some wonderful words on your creative process, we're here to anthologize through interviewing and to create a platform for people so we can learn what it is that makes us creative. And I think that is a wonderful endeavor. So please, everyone, subscribe to the channel, tell others about us, and thank you to ZM again, and thank you to our subscribers. This has been an excellent edition, a little bit longer than usual, of the New York Parrot Literary Corner. I am Dustin Pickering, and I will be back tomorrow with yet another wonderful show in another part of the globe. So please keep an eye out. And if you wish to join us again, it will be a Literary Corner at newyorkparrot.com. You can donate at the paypal.me/nyparrot, or you can check the link in the bio of the YouTube station, and you will find there the link to donate. We could use money for improving our programming, and we're really appreciative of everyone out there who's been supportive, regardless of how you support us. Share our flyers, talk about us, anything you can do. Thank you very much again, ZM, and have everyone have a wonderful evening, a wonderful afternoon, and be careful. Be safe.